Hey guys, it's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research, and I've got Rosemary Coates, who runs the Reshoring Institute out of California, here with me today. What states are best positioned to bring industry back?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I'll tell you, I expected to have a whole bunch of companies knocking on the door um, with the trade wars, and we didn't really see that, honestly. The trade wars, and I did a lot of work. I do a lot of import-export work, so we did a lot of work in trying to define changes in a tariff shift to avoid the tariffs or companies that were moving to another location, or I mean they were just handling the tariffs in a different way, trying to absorb the costs. The pandemic though really lit a fire, and now we've got lots and lots of companies that are coming to us and asking for help in reshoring. So I
And,
think
and what's their primary motivation? Just that they want to serve the US market and they think that if they're not local, they're not going to be able to because we're going to start limiting the imports of certain materials?
yeah, I mean, that's certainly a risk and a concern. I think by and large, companies are just waking up and saying we need to rethink our global manufacturing strategy, right? I mean, we're vulnerable. We
Mhm.
are vulnerable. If we only have a supplier in China, we need to rethink that policy. Where else can we find suppliers, or can we develop our own manufacturing here in the US? So there's an economic spin to
Mm,
it. There's what we would call economic patriotism, where executives are
yeah.
understanding it's good for America and so forth. So I think there's
Can I
quite a
ask
bit of
what
that.
sectors you've gotten the most attention from?
There's
Yeah.
some surprising things too, like actually some sewing factories are coming back. Uh,
Really? That was
yeah,
like probably the last industry I expected you to say, because
that's
textiles has
right.
been gone for what, 60, 70 years or something?
Well, yes, not so much textile production because it's fully automated. So we still have a
Hmm.
lot of textiles are being
But
approved in the
sewing isn't automated?
sewing. No, sewing.
Okay.
No,
What
sewing's
kind of
really
sewing are we
hard.
talking about?
Well, it can be apparel.
Mhm.
So we've seen a number of, especially small companies and high-end companies that have brought their factories back. But even fast fashion, where H&M and Zara and some of these companies that have a very quick sales turnaround fashion, they will make some of those volume core products overseas. But then they also supplement their displays or their whole product line with specialty products for seasonal things and that sort of thing. And if those can be made locally, they can be delivered really fast to the stores. And so they're taking advantage of fast fashion fads and so forth. So we've seen some of that. Definitely plastics. So plastic,
Really?
yeah. And I think that was a a trend that was sparked by Walmart. So, Walmart pledged $250 billion to buy goods, products that were made in the US over 10 years. They have a program that's called US Manufacturing and Jobs. And so they have asked for products that can be resold in their stores that are manufactured in the US. And a lot of those are plastics. And
Hmm.
so all these plastics that had moved overseas in the early 2000s, now all of a sudden, because they can sell these products at Walmart, those plastics manufacturers have set up shop in the US. So, and
What parts of the
Walmart's sort
United
of a,
States are getting that business, if I can ask? I mean,
yeah,
there have to be
we
certain corridors that are trying to attract that.
obviously, yeah. Yeah, so you talked about incentives before, and I think over the past 4 or 5 years, the incentives have pretty much all been offered at the state level.
Hmm.
And you see a primary migration back to the South, where the business environment is positive,
Lower
where
electricity
the
costs,
states are
maintenance,
offering incentives, right?
lower
So
labor costs, no unionization. So,
exactly.
so south, southeast, probably the.
Yeah, I would say the preponderance is there, but
Mhm.
we have seen we have helped, in fact, companies that have located in New York right? Which is kind of surprising, but there are certainly regions like upstate New York where it's very competitive. Even companies coming to California. So,
Wow.
it can be, yeah, it can be all over the place. It just sort of depends on the situation and the preference and priorities of the individual manufacturer.
Wow. Wow. Got any other surprises in what's coming back? And if you have a sense of the trend, do you actually know what might come back next?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Because if we have the building blocks of a product and we're sort of waiting on one component, maybe that's the next logical thing that we can make here.
Yeah, I would say a lot of automotive parts are actually coming back to Mexico. Not so much the U.S., but leaving China and going to Mexico.
I mean, China's less competitive than it used to be. So is Mexico now more competitive? Is that why, or is it as a result of these new regulations that we have under USMCA?
Some things are coming back from China and going to Mexico because the cost structures in central Mexico are very similar to China. So surprise, right? And then also for North America, the development of automotive parts and finished automobiles is very interconnected with Mexico and Canada. So the new USMCA, I think, helps facilitate some of that.
This is the
It's sort of
US
a refresh.
Mexico Canada agreement, the
Yes,
new NAFTA, as it were.
the new NAFTA, yeah. And it's sort of a refresh of NAFTA. I don't, there aren't big wild changes, although there are some changes specifically in automotive components. Um, so some of it has to do with the new NAFTA or the USMCA, and some of it looking at global cost structures. I mean, we help companies all the time with this, looking at their cost structures in China and their cost structures in the U.S. and giving them a heads up about all the problems in leaving China. So that's maybe a topic for another day, but it's not easy to just pick up, lock the doors, and turn off lights and move back to the U.S. There are a lot of restrictions and financial implications to leaving China.
All right, Rosemary Coates, I'm going to have to leave it there, but it's always a pleasure to talk to you, the executive director and chairman of the board of the Reshoring Institute. Thanks for your time. And if you would like to see much more content just like this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on Facebook. Thanks so much for watching. That's all for now.